So hello everyone, welcome to How to Run for T24 Committee 2021. Exciting. So this is just a little information workshop talk where myself and the rest of committee will talk through the roles on committee and how they work, and if you're interested in running when hustings and nominations open, how that works exactly. Anyway, so moving on. So the general committee responsibilities are as follows. So these are basically what every committee member has to do each week or over the course of their role. It's not independent individual to each role. This is kind of a generic thing that everyone needs to do. So firstly, attending weekly committee meetings, which are roughly at maximum 2 hours long. It does depend on how much there is to discuss and how much there is to get through, but 2 hours is on the long end of meetings. Secondly, it's maintaining professionalism and absolute confidentiality of sensitive information and discussion. As a committee, there are often times where matters get brought up which have to be kept within the meeting due to a variety of reasons. Therefore, being professional and confidential is an important quality needed. Thirdly, publicly supporting decisions made by the committee as a group. So decisions made usually are done by everyone involved, not just by, for example, by the president. There's normally a vote to make a decision, and no matter what you voted by the outcome, there is an idea of supporting the overall decision or the point that the committee is trying to put across. Fourthly, being prepared to provide information about the society to any members, prospective members, basically being that at like events such as Freshers Week, if someone comes up and asks questions, you should be able to provide the information necessary to answer any questions, such as how many shows do you do a term? What's your rehearsal process? You know, stuff like that. Fifthly, the following as far as personal availability course allows. So basically this is like the things that you need to show up to as a member of committee, unless you have a proper reason, and that reason has to be passed by the president or the member of committee running that event. So whip every week, and then the 4 till 6 slot which follows, which is essentially our workshop slot at the moment. Attending all socials and events for 2 hours minimum. 24-hour drama 4 hours, however sometimes that is based on a rota system which Tristan has implemented, so people kind of do 4 hours over the course of the 24-hour period. Similarly, attending all the shows just to show the support to the society, and attending get-ins and get-outs of shows according to a schedule. This is if shows were in person, we would be getting into a venue and having to move all the props and all the set, costume, everything in before the show and then getting it all out. As committee, we are called upon by the CPM and the PM of the show just to give a helping hand. Next, potentially act as a committee liaison, responsible for the welfare of a specific show. These are roles which only 6 members of committee take on each term. Basically, they are there as a kind of middleman between Seth, who is currently our welfare officer, and the show, because Seth can't be at every show every day. And finally, being prepared to take on jobs other committee members can't when they are unable. These are due to a variety of reasons. Someone's got too many deadlines coming up, therefore needs someone to help carry the weight of their role, and so forth. Next, so obviously this year for us has been very different as a society and as a committee. COVID has had a impact on what our roles include. So we've had to work together as a committee to allow the society to carry on as much as we can, and therefore allow the changes to be made when necessary. In particular, for example, some roles and the tasks that they carry out have changed, such as socials have become more virtual, same with workshops. So a lot of the liaising between the people running the events, for example, has been based obviously virtually. But despite everything, it is still important that as a committee we still work together and we coordinate on matters to allow the society to operate, as well as creating the theatre that we all love, as well as providing opportunities for members. Next. So these are the list of all the available committee roles. There are 10 members of committee, as you can see. These people are all fantastic individuals, if I do say so myself. So yeah, as I'm going to go on now, and each committee member is going to talk about their role in particular, starting with our DMO officer.
Hello. So I'm Nicholas, although I think you all know me by now. But yeah, for the DMO, it's the Digital Media Officer. So you're in charge of all of T24 social media programs, the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, which we do have. And also our website, which is pretty snazzy if you want to check it out. But you also share the Instagram and some of the other social media platforms with other members of the committee. So they help out at times, which is nice. Like Harry, he uses the Instagram alongside me for pushing shows. And this is my favorite part of the kind of role, which is designing snazzy Facebook banners, because it's a lot of fun and it gives you kind of a creative outlet and learning new skills and that kind of thing. Because I mean, I didn't really know how to design banners or anything like that when I signed up for the role, but then it gave me a chance to learn a new skill, which was very, very fun. And then normally when we would have in-person socials, you would have a camera and you'd walk around for maybe a couple hours and take pictures of people when they're in funny situations or in nice pictures. And you take approximately like 50 to 150. Then the next day or following week, you just sit by with a cup of tea and you'd cycle through them and add the T24 watermark and remove pictures which aren't so good. But in COVID situation, that translates to taking screenshots during socials, which is also quite funny because you have panels and you get people doing funny stuff, which is pretty good. And then one of the also kind of fun parts of this role is conducting show interviews. So we, if you looked at the blog for last term things, so basically you sit down with the people and you have like a nice chat for about 20 minutes. And then you spend the next day transcribing that into a written format. And it's a lot of fun. And yeah, then you mainly work along you work along other members of committee, especially publicity. So like deciding who does what. So mainly Harry kind of handles like the show aspects of posting, but we work alongside each other for a lot of the projects, which is fun. And you're in communication with a lot of the other members of the committee when it comes to making events. And these are some of the banners which I made because that's fun.
Fabulous. Thank you, Nick. So yeah, next is Harry. Harry isn't here, so I'm just going to talk through his role. So Harry is the publicity officer currently, and the publicity officer's role is mainly to organise the publicity for the society and selling all the shows, using the social media, like Nick said, working with the DMO very closely. The publicity officer also organises and helps production teams find publicity officers for each show, who are individuals who are more focused directly in on the particular shows rather than the whole scope of the society. Harry also creates publicity for the shows who do not have an officer on board. He can sign up to that and do their publicity. The publicity officer creates publicity schedules, so the trailers, profile pictures and events for the shows go up on time, so everyone knows about them, you know, because we make a lot of theatre, so you know, people knowing about them is good. Post all the show events and make sure people are invited. If we were doing in-person shows, the publicity officer would create programs and then get these printed. There is a T24 like layout for a program, which is basically a 4-page booklet. And production teams normally send you all the information that needs to be filled. You just need to fill them out and get them printed. Yes, so keep an eye out for eye open for future positions for people interested in publicity work and keep in contact with the DMO. Pretty self-explanatory. And then at the end, be involved in creating society content such as T24 Drammy's trailer, which is our end of year big party, which is so much fun, 24-hour drama posters, and publicity for those events as well. Next we have our venues manager, Charlie Harris.
Hello. So, won't lie, my role is mainly in person, so I haven't been up to huge amounts this term. However, here's what I would be doing if COVID weren't necessarily a thing. So it's really important to work closely with the production teams of various shows to help arrange their venue based on that show's needs. So sort of what kind of vibe they're going for. If they're doing something spooky and gothic, we'd have a chat, maybe decide to put them in the Undercroft, which is just wicked. So it's helping shows find the best venue to suit their needs. Then I liaise with the owners of those venues to maintain good relationships, make sure we can actually keep using those venues in the future, stay on good terms, that sort of thing. Also organize bookings so that people's show dates are, they have the venue for those show dates, which is very important because if you turn up, you don't have the keys. It's all a bit, that wouldn't be great. Also, I'm constantly on the lookout for exciting new places where we can go and perform our shows because variety is fun. It's nice to have new places, sort of more options to use, that sort of thing. Also, it's really important, I think, to be at get-ins and get-outs because obviously the owners of the venues are going to be there. You need to hand over keys, things like that. It's just, if you're the person they've been chatting with, it's nice to be there and show face. So yeah, that's what I'd normally be up to. This term, however, has really reinforced for me the idea of being proactive and actually finding things to do, which is again another key part of being on committee, is making sure you're always available to help out with other people if their workloads become too much, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what venues does.
Fabulous. And next we have our events manager, Tristan.
Yeah. Hello, sorry, I was still muted. Right, as the event manager, does a load of the fun stuff. Less show focused, but more of the fun weekly sort of activity type shenanigans, such as running our weekly workshop, known as WHIP. It's great fun. Do come. It's WHIP, when people write their workshop, write scripts, bring them in, we read them out, see how they're going, and they're lovely. And often have some lovely, fun WHIP prompt stuff. It's great fun. They're also technically arranged weekly workshops, such as this one in the 4 till 6 slot. But if I'm entirely honest, this term, Em and Darcy have taken most of the lead on that one. Thank you so much. Very large part of being events is organising and running pitches. Even if you hypothetically happen to pitch basically every time. If you were to pitch, you just have to make sure to organise someone else to host the event in your stead. Also, when it comes to organising pitches, you have to ensure you get enough people pitching by just seeing if people want to pitch, and subtly just making sure you get enough nice number of people going for it. This is good fun. Also, the highlight of everyone's term, running 24-hour drama, whoop whoop, which this year has been a little difficult, well, with the whole virtual thing, but it's great fun. Normally you'd be in person and actually being present for the whole 24-hour drama, making sure you have a committee presence through a, as Em said earlier, a schedule, organising committee members to be there for their allotted 4 hours at various points throughout the day and or night, and yeah, just making sure everyone has a jolly old time in the society. Yeah, thank you so much.
Fab. Next we have company production manager. Sorry, that made no sense. Let me say that again. Company production manager, whose handout Hannah isn't here at the moment, so I will read through. I will tell you about the role. So, company production manager, really want to say, I'm really sorry, is in charge of organising and supporting the production managers and the production teams for each term. So there are normally 6 production managers, 1 for each show, and Hannah's role basically is making sure that these production managers and the rest of their production teams know what they're doing, are organised, and is there to offer support if necessary, give suggestions, and help work out possible ways of solving any issues. She also oversees the get-ins and the get-outs, as I previously mentioned, in our live shows, working with the venues and the technicians to help sort out any lighting, sound, which may be necessary. As a society, we have our own lighting board and sound system, which obviously this year hasn't been used, but Hannah would normally be in charge of setting that up or working with others to set that up. Hannah also, the CPM would also liaise with professional venues regarding like show tech riders and risk assessments, which is essentially, for example, with the Gulbenkian and Marlow, they ask for risk assessment and show tech riders, which are basically like what you would want tech-wise for your show, sent off in advance. So Hannah would make sure that the venues get those 2 to 3 weeks prior to the actual show. Another part of the role is being in charge of the T24 cupboard and having that organised. Currently she uses an inventory, and she also organises the tidying of the cupboard, which is often done maybe once a term or twice a term before, like at the start of term, but also after show season, dragging in most of the committee with her. As I previously said, learn how to use T24 lights as well as the tech or virtual tech, which we are currently using. So sound apps and how to edit and stuff like that, so she can support. Sit in on production previews for shows, which is essentially watching the show's second preview and making any notes about the production elements and what can be improved or any suggestions or anything great. And then finally, she is also in charge of member and show safety for the whole society. So at the beginning of the year, Hannah would write a risk assessment for the whole society, which the union asked for. And then that would be sent off, protecting everyone with membership for the rest of the year, essentially. Cool. Next we have social welfare. Seth.
So hi, I'll start with the social side of things. So typically we'll run a minimum of 6 socials per term, and this is based on an alternating system of MTS. So it will be 1 social every 2 weeks, and then MTS will do the social in the week that we're not running one. And I try to ensure this is a mixture of drinking and non-drinking socials, essentially trying to make them as inclusive as possible. That's also why I try to ensure that every social I do has generally been varied. So whether that's a film night or bingo or whatever it may be, just constantly switching up is good. Or notably, there's the Drammies and the Christmas social. Drammies, of course, being the big end of year social, and the Christmas meal or Christmas social, which we had this year. Again, this year around it had to all be online, but continuing to have that the contact information for various venues is important for the role, and I have got that and have consistently been monitoring when and if it is possible to do online socials. Of course, so far it hasn't been. Continuing to monitor that is an important part of the role. Be present at all the socials, of course, only missing them if you have a good reason or with permission from the president, as well as a stand-in in the case of an online social where really there ought to be someone hosting, because they can't really run themselves, because it's not a case of mingling, it's more a case of an activity taking place. Yeah, like I said, it's about variety, thinking of fun, creative ways for the society to enjoy themselves, have a jolly old time, as Tristan put it earlier. And like I said, just to reiterate, it's usually a minimum of 6 socials per term. All right, and then there's the second half of my role, which is welfare. So essentially, I'm responsible for the welfare of a society, as you would imagine. And this just includes ensuring people feel safe and at ease within a T24 environment. It also means that I'm in charge of the liaison system. So Em briefly touched upon that earlier, but in terms of who liaises what show, I'm in charge of that allocation. And then each liaison essentially reports to me if someone from that show approaches the liaison with an issue. They'll report to me and we'll discuss a way around the whatever issues cropped up to find a solution. And of course, these welfare issues could be anywhere from deadline stress to very, you know, much just stuff that's, you know, but the main thing about welfare is, of course, it's about that confidentiality. Really, if you're running for this role, you really have to make sure you are very good at keeping everything confidential that comes your way, essentially. With that said, I would say about 95% of the welfare issues that come my way are consulted with MBrook, of course, with the consent of whoever's come to me as well, because obviously it's important for a president to be aware of everything that's going on welfare-wise. Yeah, like I said, covers a broad range, dealing with cases of bullying, assisting and trying to ease members' stress when appropriate. And this will include having meetings with members and taking issues to the union when uncertain of how to approach an issue. So that's very important. If it's an issue that maybe I'm not sure how to handle it, it's very important that I don't go guns blazing, start making loads of decisions because I make the wrong one. It's very important that I have the Kent Union there for me, and I can go to them if I'm unsure how to handle something. And usually if you keep badgering them with emails, or even if you phone up, they will eventually respond. And the last thing I'll say on that role is that this is, of course, for the committee as well. It's not just about the members of the society, it's not just about the directors, PMs, cast members. It's also about making sure that everyone on the committee is as happy as possible they can be in the role, because committee can, of course, be stressful at times, as I'm sure directing, PMing, or really being part of T24 can be in any measure.
Fantastic. Next, handing over to Hannah Grayson, who's our secretary.
Hello there, everybody. 'Tis I must start by saying that obviously I'm fairly new to the committee, so I'm still trying to find my feet, but I think I'm managing that well. So yeah. So first things, managing the committee inbox, very important. Just making sure that it's nice and clean. You know, all the members of committee do have access to it, so you know, it's kind of a collaborative process, I guess. Yeah. Next, my favorite bit, the newsletter. Oh, I love doing the newsletter. You get to write about things that are going on in the society and add your own little personal spin on it. Yeah, it's really fun. Something important regarding the newsletter is asking around. Like, don't be afraid to ask around to like the social welfare officer, to just events that are happening, because you know sometimes you might not know exactly what's going on. Also, getting in touch with the secretary of MTS as well, just to see what events are going on in MTS, because it's really nice to pop those in the newsletter as well, just because then combining with societies, we love to see it. Next, we have committee minutes, which is taking down the key elements of the committee meetings and then sending them to anyone who was absent in them. Yeah, these don't have to be like constant writing down, like you don't have to get every single word of like what people are saying, because I can remember in the first meeting that I did the committee minutes on, I was there like typing all the way through, and I think at 1 minute I just wrote chaos ensues. So yeah, don't do that. Just get the key points from the meeting, and you know, if you do vote on something, like just write down, you know, what the outcome of the vote is, and yeah, like what the other options were as well, which I tend to do. A really important one is timing pitches. Yeah, so I did this on Saturday for the first time. It was quite stressful, but you know, it was a vibe. So yeah, timing pitches is really important. Each pitch gets 5 minutes to say what they need to say, and then you call out at 2 minutes, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Yeah, because we don't want them to run over 5 minutes. Although it is heartbreaking, but you know, we don't have time. Now we have merch. I'm currently working on this. So it's collaborating with local companies to produce yearly merch for the society. Right now I'm having to do this online, and last year when Amy didn't do any merch. So I'm kind of working it out as I go because there wasn't really much information on it for me, but you know, it's fine. Got to just work it out as you go along. And yeah, so I'm currently working with Nick on that to make a little banner because he loves making his little banners. And yeah, it's a whole committee sort of thing just to help you decide on what merch to choose. And then finally, we have booking rooms. This is probably the most important thing, practically, just because, you know, rooms need to be booked for auditions, rehearsals, workshops, 24-hour drama, and on-campus shows. Can't say how you do that. I think there's like online forms and stuff, but yeah, the pandemic hasn't really helped me out with that, especially since I only joined this term, and yeah, I've been online this term. But yeah, that is something that's very important, and yeah, I'd be happy to help out with our new secretary to see how to do that.
Next, we have our treasurer, Katie Dave.
Hello. As the name entails, I'm the treasurer. I work with the treasury. You know, I'm the money person. So the main part of my job really is updating my list as to who has membership and chasing down people who don't have membership. Membership is incredibly important, especially given that like we put on live theatre. You need membership as an insurance policy. If you get hurt and you don't have membership, we can't help you. Another big part of my job is keeping track of the finances of the society regularly. So I have to send emails off to the Kent Union asking for updates as to how much money is in each account. We do have 2 different accounts. If you want to know more info on that, drop me a message. I can talk you through all of that stuff. I am also in charge of doing the budgets and reimbursements for people after shows and socials. So it's not just me in those meetings. The president and the CPM are also in the budget meetings, but we sit down with the prod team for any show. And then one of them, normally the PM, goes through a list of everything they want. We have a chat, see if we can get some of the money down in some cases, and then yeah, we just come to an agreement as to how much budget that show has. And then reimbursements, I fill out a form, send it to the union, they then process it, and you get refunded. So I am also in charge of tickets/donations. Again, this is another thing, have to go through the union. So I send off an email to the union and be like, hello, can you please put up this on the website as something that you can buy? And like specify like how long it needs to be up for and all of that kind of stuff. For virtual shows, because I'm in charge of tickets, I also need to be keeping a close eye on my emails. Making sure that I'm keeping track of people who have requested to see certain shows, make sure that they get the link when the show goes out, and responding to all of the emails, be like, yeah, cool, I've seen this, you will get the link when it goes out, and all of that kind of stuff. There'll also be some cross-referencing involved with it as well, making sure they've bought tickets and stuff like that if you were using a ticketing system for that particular term. I'm also in charge of the cash boxes and collecting for the front of house money. So yeah, when we're in person, we use actual physical money. This isn't a part of my job that I've overly had much of a hand in. I have the cash boxes and I'm in charge of like making sure they're all safe and stuff like that. But front of house, yeah, so normally it is somewhat possible for people to be buying tickets on the door. And if that happens, and also, yeah, making sure with like change and all of that, we have a cash box so that you can buy the tickets on the door, but just keeping track of how many people there are, or if anybody has reserved a ticket. So making sure that all of the money is coming in, making sure that we're not going over capacity in any given venue. Yeah, that's basically my job.
Fab. And now I'll pass you over to the Vice President, Darcy Davies.
Please hold your applause till the end. No, I'm joking. So, hello, I'm Vice President. Obviously, whilst the role has sort of grown over the last few years and it's been fantastic, this year we've obviously hit a bit of a curveball, but I feel like we've all done a great job trying to pick it back up again. But essentially, my job is making sure that everyone on committee is supported and doing well. Not in the same way as welfare, just in that when you're vice president, you don't always have the same amount of workload as your other fellow committee members. So you need to be a bit proactive, but I'll touch on that in a sec. And just the outreach part is to contact external sources. That includes other societies, but again, I'll just get to that on my slide. So big part of my job is arranging workshops with professionals, individuals. So like Duncan the other week when we had that stage combat online, that was really fun. And now that everyone around us is sort of starting to find their feet a bit too, it's becoming a bit more readily available to us to try and do these things, which is like cool stuff. That also includes theatre company workshops and even career talks. It's important to create links with UKC societies, especially our sister society, MTS, shout out, love them to pieces. And sometimes with societies like UKC Photography to get headshot workshops and things like that. We've done that in the past. And hopefully we can do that again soon. It's really important to try and step in where you can if a fellow committee member is struggling with deadlines, as said before, because this role doesn't necessarily have the same workload in certain weeks. It's just, you know, just be a good person, help out. But that can just be like with anything. And, you know, you don't just, you obviously it's really important to support the president, but like you need to make sure that everyone's okay. And this can be from things to like previews for shows, screenings, MPO interviews, vote counting, and hosting events like pitches. That was really fun. I loved doing that. But yeah, as mentioned, proactivity is quite important because, well, it just is. If you didn't catch that part already. But yeah, so that's kind of it.
Fab, thanks, Darcy. So yeah, finally, president. So this is my role. I've got a lot of things to do as president. I mean, it's pretty like, but it's great. It's great fun because as the president, you kind of get to oversee the whole running of the society, working with every member of committee individually, but also as one unit. There is a lot to do, but I found it really rewarding. But yeah, here are kind of everything that I kind of do summed up. So firstly, I run the weekly committee meeting and give each committee member to-dos, be aware of as to what everyone is doing, kind of keep on top of things that need to be organised, what things that are coming up, such as, you know, show season comes up in a few weeks, therefore organising previews, as I say further on, president and production previews. So there are normally 2 sets of previews per term, which the first one is just me on my own, so I go and watch the show and I sit in and I'm like, I really like that, and I give the directors and production manager comments and points to improve or suggestions. And then the second preview I do with the CPM. I once again just focus on the show, but Hannah or the CPM would focus on production element. It's kind of just getting 2 sets of eyes watching this show and seeing it progress. However, in summer term, there are only 1 set of previews where the president and production preview is united in one. Another part of my role when doing live shows and working with professional venues is screening Gulbenkian and Marlow pitches. This essentially means going through the pitches for these venues with the hopeful directors and making sure that there's nothing in them which the venues have already done before or would have an issue with putting on. It's just in order to maintain that great relationship we have with the Gulbenkian and the Marlow. The next part of my role is, it's not actually happened yet, and so I haven't actually done this yet, but this is running the AGM, or the annual general meeting, and hustings. This is basically the annual general meeting is, what have you been up to this year? It's basically a big chat about what we've done, and as a society what we have achieved. And this normally happens at the same time of hustings, which is when anyone hoping to run for one of these roles would do their pitch and say why they should be voted in as the next president or VP or venues, for example. A major part of my role is casting. At the end of every audition week, I receive all the casting lists from directors and work out how these lists can create final casts. I do this with another member of committee. This year it has been Seth. The two of us just working together, trying to do the best that we can for cast and directors. This casting would then be followed by a director's casting meeting, sometimes in Spoons when it was open, or this time obviously via Zoom. Zooms, you know, I'm funny, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, basically talking to the directors and working out if they're happy with the cast list we've provided, and working out what can be done if they're not. Sometimes this means doing phone calls, which would be calling an individual if two shows would both like this one person in their cast, and offering that individual to both roles. Then they have to choose which one. But yeah, it's a great part of the role, which I enjoy so much. However, sometimes you do stay up quite late doing it, but you know, it's worth it. Moving on, so I am in charge of scheduling all shows for each term, which is fun. It's really fun, but also you have to avoid clashing with other events and making sure that each show has enough time to rehearse. So there is a lot to kind of take into account when scheduling shows, but also like make sure each show has enough time to rehearse in the first place. It's great, it's fun. Maintain relationship with School of Arts, the Union, and other University of Kent societies. As Darcy said, maintaining this relationship is really important, and working with other people. So it's kind of a thing we work together on. Sometimes I just let Darcy go off and do it herself. You know, it's being president is part of it is being able to delegate and discuss with other people. It's not just being in charge all the time, even though it's quite fun being in charge. It is delegating and discussing mainly. Like all committee members, just being attending T24 events, showing your face most of the time, being committee liaison, something that Seth and I touched on earlier. As president, I am not involved in any of the shows over the first 2 terms of the year. Therefore, I normally liaise 1 or 2 shows because I have the time. Welfare, so if an issue comes up, and as Seth said, he would discuss it with me, and sometimes I would be involved in sorting it out, or sometimes I would just let Seth work it out for himself. It does just depend on the welfare issue being discussed. Next thing is schedule and organise attendance at Freshers' Fair and Refreshers' Fair. Obviously this year it was different, however we did have a virtual Freshers' Fair, so it wasn't like, you know, completely different. Scheduling it being basically making sure that there's a committee member or committee members present at the stall and all over the campus, trying to get as many members as possible. Running directors meetings, so when a new set of directors are voted in after pitches, organising meetings and giving them all the information they need. Review accounts and all decisions made, basically just keeping an overall eye on any accounts or decisions that the society and the committee have made. These can be really anything, and there's a massive range. yeah, there's loads. And then my final thing is I have the final say on all decisions. So for example, if there's a discussion on what do we do, what would normally happen is I would organize kind of a debate in committee. People would say their opinions, and then if there's kind of a general variety of of opinions, it would go down to a vote, which I would then say we are going to a vote, and the vote would be the final, whatever the outcome of the vote is, the final say on the matter. Sometimes if there's not time for a vote, I will just make the decision on what's going ahead, but this is taking into account everyone's opinions and kind of understanding why this is the best thing for us as a society to do. But yeah, my role is quite varied, and but it's really fun. So yeah, cool. I'm sure you're all now asking, Emily, how do I run for committee? Well, I'm going to tell you now. So if you want to run for committee, you must talk to the current committee member and arrange a meeting with them before you even start writing a manifesto. This is important because you need to understand what the role includes, and talk to that individual to kind of make sure you know what you're getting into. As we as a committee are quite close, we discuss with each other if a meeting has taken place, if they've had interest in their role. Yeah, so do make sure you have that meeting to discuss your ideas for the role, or any suggestions they may have. Secondly, what you'll need to do is, once you've decided on your position that you'd like to run for, you need to write a manifesto. These are a single side of Word, PDF, simple text, whatever you want, like kind of maybe a poster of why you should be the role you want to go for, what skills you have, what ideas you may have, why you should be voted in, all of this general kind of ideas and content, and then email that to my email, so t24president@gmail.com, when nominations open. Currently, I don't know when that will be, so do watch this space. So when they open, go onto the Kent Union website, go to the election page, scroll down to T24 Society, and nominate yourself for that role. You do need to nominate yourself, because otherwise you're not technically running. So do make sure you nominate yourself. Before online voting, we as a society hold our own hustings, which is essentially pitches. So you would, instead of pitching the show, you would pitch yourself for why you should be the role. And this kind of happens through each role in the order this presentation is done. So we start with DMO and go all the way up to president. And after each round, there will be a set of questions. There will be one question from the current member of committee, who will ask all of the people running for that role the same question. And then there'll be two from the floor, which can be anything. And every person running for that role has to answer that question. Hustings. So yes, hustings. Kent Union hold the elections of president and treasurer on their own website. However, they do not hold the elections for any other role. I don't know why this is. I'm sorry. I think it's because they're executive roles, but I'm not 100% sure. So we plan to put ours up at the same time as when Kent Union opened their elections. So it's kind of like, same running time. Dates are still to be confirmed, as I said, but do watch this space because I will post them as soon as I know. Hustings for all the roles will take place after nominations open on the same day as the annual general meeting, as I said earlier. You should really only run for one role on committee that you are really interested in or passionate about. This is just because if you run, for example, for more than one, people may get the idea that you're not as invested in either role, you're not as committed to it. Yes, I did just use the word committed, talking about committee. Cool, moving on. For more information and exact instructions on this will follow soon. And then a little bit more information about what happens afterwards. So summer term acts as handover term. Essentially, if you get voted in as the new committee, you will spend the summer term shadowing the old committee, us, and learning about the role that you are taking on, and gradually then take over. By the end of term, you will be running the committee meetings, and the old committee will kind of just be sitting there and maybe giving an odd opinion or suggestion, but not really leading it in any way. And then finally, official handover is at the Drummies at the end of term, where the outgoing and incoming committee members will give a short little speech saying goodbye or hello and what they hope to move on to. Yeah, it's a bit sad, but it's also great because, you know, exciting new things to come. Yeah, that's it. Any questions from anyone? Hello, yes, Hannah. Oh, thanks, guys. Stop that. Hannah Etheridge. I can't hear you. Sorry. Is it?
Am I audible now? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's about right. I got a big fat notification that my internet connection was unstable. So I'm going to say what I just said. What are your top tips for writing an ACE manifesto?
Okay. Other committee members, you can jump in as well. So I start off, I will be posting our old manifestos when all the information goes out, so you can have, there'll be examples, but essentially I would say is don't get too bogged down all the emotive kind of, like, you know, I'm really, you know, show your passion, but don't get too bogged down and hide all your ideas underneath that kind of emotive language. Essentially, you are telling people why they should vote for you, so get your ideas across to people. The clearer the better. The document, I would say.
Don't add the word committee.
Committee.
Yes,
Make sure there's a
that's
strong
true.
focus on your points and what you want to achieve in the role, because so long as you set that out and have like a strong plan for what you want to get done, people know what you're all about. It's clear, it's concise, and I think that's probably one of the most worthwhile things you can do.
Yeah, just building off of those two, be specific. Like, yes, it's nice if you have more general abilities with like communication and all of that stuff that would fit any role, but like, you're running for a specific role, say why you want that role.
And also include a picture where you look like a total muppet.
Pictures are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally didn't have a picture of myself dressed up as a bee on mine.
Yeah, the more ludicrous you look in the picture, the better.
Exactly. I was going to say have fun with it, because if you're having fun while making it, it shows your kind of excitement for the role. Mine had a big dog on mine, and it was great. I think it was a pug in my presentation as well.
It was a pug. I loved it.
Yeah, it was the giant pug.
I love that. I loved your thingamabob.
I'll just jump in here and say that that's, you don't like have to. Don't feel like, oh, if I don't sort of make fun of myself, people aren't going to sort of want to vote for me. Because I won't lie to you, I think I put like a meme at the end of my PowerPoint for hustings, but I didn't do that for my manifesto because I was like, they need to take me seriously. like
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
but it kind of do it the way you want to, because I think the most important thing is why you want that role, why you should be the one picked for that role, because they're voting for you as a person as well as what you can do and what you can bring. So if you're sort of thinking, oh, I better do that for it, if it's not really what you want to do, then don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, as well, I think the other thing is make sure, as we've kind of all said, make sure you get you across, because there may be some people reading this manifesto who don't actually know you that well as an individual, because they haven't done a show with you, or they're not in the same classes, you know, whatever like that. So there's, I feel, in your manifesto and in your like pitch hustings presentation, make sure you get you across in however that is, if that's in putting pictures on, or if that's in like literally saying what I am as a person. If you you don't want it to come across as kind of just like words on a page or a computer who's written this. You know, show that you are the person behind the role. Does that make sense? Fab.
Just as a quick thing I want to add on, if you are using photos, you don't have to, a number of people do. If you are using photos, if there's anybody in the photo who isn't yourself, make sure you contact them and make sure that you've got their permission. So I know that my manifesto had a couple pictures of my classmates from my first term. So I messaged both of them individually being like, hey, is it all right if I use a photo of you on my manifesto? And yeah, just make sure you've got permission for any of that stuff.
Any other questions? Anything? No. Fab. Yeah, if any questions do come up over, you know, the next few hours or the next few days, do just, you know, message anyone on committee and ask. If you would like to talk individually to any of the roles that you're interested in, I can set up some breakout rooms and send you into them, or you can just have a chat here if you're interested in any particular role and want to learn more now. We've got the time. So is anyone who wants to talk to a particular member about a particular role, or no?
I just realised that I just put VP next to my name. I didn't put outreach as well, so I'm not doing my job properly. Look, I'm already messing up on the recording as well.
I didn't even put my name as secretary because no one told me to.
Kristen doesn't even have his name. He's just T24 events.
He's become
And then
that.
sometimes he's also not